So they'll be calling you a radical. No, we got to get these 2020 numbers in, done for the year, starting the 2021 catastrophe on the salmon numbers. Now, I'm going to post this link. This is the criminal activity of the Army Corps of Engineers, which classified Kevin Blanch. Well, they're the ones that whistleblowed, told me I was classified. Now, remember, we have Tim Martin, we have other activists. I have my post-circumstance army is on the Oregon-Washington coast. Tim Martin's probably the #1 salmon guide in the history of Oregon. I mean, we're boots on the ground. He's on every one of these rivers. He's living in his camper, and the post-circumstance army, he's documenting the Fukushima catastrophe. Has been for years. Part of the post-ignorance army. He calls himself post-ignorance West. So we know factually the numbers on the Rogue, on the Willamette, on all of them, up and down, because there's not a fish counter there. But Tim's the fish counter because we get to the hatchery and we see, and it's basically almost nothing. I mean, they spent $157 million on the one dam and they get back 30 fish. So stay with me on the Columbia. The Columbia was, you can look it up, YouTube videos, yay, yay, Chinook salmon. This is 2013, 14, 15. Now stay with me. Chinook salmon go to sea on average of 5 years. They go up to 8. 5, that's the mean. Oh, we got record returns based on record escapement. Now, before I get rattling these numbers off, Alaska's reported their worst salmon runs in history. Now, he says, oh, since 1970. No, in history. Because in 76, they had, all through the 70s and 60s, the toxic killers had just annihilated their beds. They were just wiping them out. So they were getting no escapement. These numbers, they have excellent escapement. They're dying at sea. Were numbers in history when they had record numbers, before Fukushima happened. Now, this is the smoking gun of Fukushima. Now, stay with me. The half-pounders, that's a stillhead. They go to sea 1 to 2 years. They can go twice. They come back. That's what they're called, a half-pounder. So Tim's up there. I mean, that takes a lot of work for us to break it down because they don't just tell you when they're going to do that. He's all the way up there watching them, filming the half-pounders. We have it on film. We have filming of Oregon Fish and Game shooting sea lions. That's their answer. When they've admitted to us finally, they've come out, the biologists in Oregon, Washington that work for ODFW, they've admitted they're finally dying in the sea. They're admitting that. They have record escapement. What's escapement? Little fish you didn't make it at the sea. They live in the sea. So the stillhead in 2010, they immediately started to crash in 2012. Now, we're using the Columbia because they have the sonar there. They count them all. Now, remember, Oregon, I would call Oregon all the time. What the hell? And Oregon says, well, we don't trust the Army Corps of Engineers. They're corrupt, blah, 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 this, that, and everything. Also, remember this. Lawsuits will file. The environmentalist community would be suing right now on the Army Corps of Engineers if we had one. In the old days, they would have sued. Sierra Club would have sued. Greenpeace would have sued. Friends of the Earth would have sued. But they're greenwashing machines. They're all in on the nuclear cartel. They don't do shit. They don't do anything. They're still talking about blowing up dams, when they're dying in the ocean. So, this is important. Again, Alaska's all-time record lows, catastrophe off record highs pre-Fukushima. So the stillhead numbers started to crash immediately post-Fukushima. 2012, 2013 to where they're down over 90% post-Fukushima. But the Chinook numbers were really strong. 2011, 2012, 2013, everybody saying, Blatch, I was there. I watched it. I says, wait till 2016. So this is important. ODFW, that's Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. WDFW, that's Washington's. NOAA, they have buoys, they have projections based on escapement, blah. They know exactly every fish that gets out. This is historic, important stuff. So in 2016, they set their projections at 2.1 million. Kevin Blanch, the biologist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, this ongoing PhD, I set my projection at 680,000. For the year, they come in at 680,000. Now, remember, up until then, we have live cam on the Bonneville. Army Corps of Engineers runs it. I used to call the Army Corps of Engineers and, just fight and argue with them over and over and over. Finally, a whistleblower inside the Army Corps of Engineers sent me an email. He says, here, Kevin Blanch, let me show you something. You don't know this, but you're classified. He says, here's one document that I can release that's unclassified to you. I said, what do you mean unclassified? This is the corruption of the Army Corps of Engineers. They are corrupt. And this is Oregon's words. So that was in 2016. So they come in at 680,000 when they're projecting 2.1 million. Oh, it's just an aberration. Okay. Just a weird year. All right. High tides, wind, whatever. 2017, they project 2.3 million. And their boys and their forecast, their modeling has everything built in. They're extremely accurate. But they're not plugging in Fukushima. So, and I'd already watched the tide pools die. I already watched anchovies and sardines collapse. I'd already watched, because I'm boots on the ground actually doing the work. I'd actually seen this already starting to unfold because I'm walking the coast. I mean, I'm doing the work. So, there are 2.3 million projections. I set mine at 480,000. Coming at 483,000. Whoa, once is luck, twice is skill. Okay, so we move to 2018. I set my projections at 333,000. They set theirs between 2.1 and 2.7 million, depending on which one. All escapement. They're still in denial. They come in at 336,000. How can Kevin Letch possibly be that accurate? I don't know, but I was. I am. Once is luck, twice is skill, 3 times is recorded history. The trend is not your friend. So, let's go to 2019. So 2019, I set my projection at 280,000. Then I lowered to 220,000. They came out of denial and lowered their projection to, I think, 1.3 million. Then they stopped gill netting. Now stay with me. This is important on the gill netting part of this equation. Gill netting takes out half. In 2016, they gill netted. They're in front of the dam. They gill netted well over 1 million Chinook salmon. You know, what do they do with them? Sell them. Hello, you eat them. Well, there's plenty of freaking salmon in the market. Yeah. Farm raised. Yeah. Some Atlantic, which there isn't much of that anymore, and they're skinny, they're sucked up. Now, this is just by number, not by weight. Now, the sonar and the live cam was there to us when all of a sudden they says, oh, it broke. It doesn't work. Magically. So we've been calling, I've been going at them. Me and Tim both been going at, hey, I'll buy you a GoPro. You know, I saw one on eBay for $40. They crashed it in 2016. Okay, so we're going 5 years now. So I'm going to post the link. iFish is finally coming out of denial. You know, those people on there catching up to what Kevin Blanchard's been on. They're lying. I mean, they're lying. So this year. Now, then we'll get to the projections, which are the lowest projections in the history. And this is not in the beds. This is not the dams. They're dying at sea. Because we know escapement and record escapement. Record escapement, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 8. Record. I mean, we had a major problem with the birds and the netties. We had a major problem with the things. Well, it's a catastrophe now. I mean, most of them burned this year. But so, no gill netting, no fishing. Now, you think just about that dynamic. I think they had 15 partial days on the Columbia all year long. So, the number, you have to double the number because they pulled 100% gill netting. I had my projections set at 240,000. Excuse me, 260,000. So, you have to double that because they pulled all gill netting, which would put you at 520,000. They came in at 548,000. You have to cut that in half. Which, to get the proper number, because in 2016, with gill netting, so you take the gill net fish and you take the fish that came over the dam that they counted through the sonar, we're talking almost 3 million. So we go from 3 million to 548,000. That's if you believe them, which I don't, because and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I don't. Because it doesn't match any of the other numbers. You know, we got the fall Chinook going on the Willamette. They didn't catch anything. I've talked to hundreds of fishermen. Hundreds. Tim Martin and his crew, his friends out there, all they do is fish. I mean, these guys are retired doctors, his crew. They fished this year every day that they were allowed to fish. They never even got a bite this year. I mean the whole year. I'm talking not a bite. His other friend caught one, and we put the pictures of it. It was all skinny. He says, I never seen one. It had striped in it. That's the same guy that shot the 3-antlered elk, the deformed elk. Same guy. And so here it is. So the Bonneville, how is that possible? And so people have been emailing and going, well, I've been calling them going, they won't even talk to me anymore. ODFW, they don't laugh at me anymore. They used to laugh at me. They're like, no, you're all over it, Kevin Blanch. We used to laugh at you. You're the man on this. And I get classified. Well, I'm classified through the Department of Energy, from what I understand. Well, they run the show. They run the world, the nuclear. So this ecological catastrophe from hell, and the live cam's out. So they set the projections for 2021. Finally come out of it now. These projections are so incredible. Their projections are 95% what their projection was in 2016. And they finally come out and say they're dying in the ocean. They'll say ocean conditions. Then they'll go on and they'll use this regular rhetoric. Scientists are mystified, they're baffled, they're stumped, they're perplexed, they're bewildered, they're alarmed. You know, the unknown of the unknown. Not to mention, you correlate that with the fact that the crab season is completely closed for the whole year. There's an unknown toxic in them. They're skinny, they're sucked up. With the anchovy collapse, I mean, this is the greatest story in human history. The Great Pacific Genocide. Everybody laughed at me. I mean, you think about Dutch Sense and all those guys. Oh, the Pacific Ocean's fine. Who paid them? I mean, these guys, well, it's Fukushima. I can guarantee it. 3 suns burning there. For every action, there's a reaction. You just pour this in. And the big news that came out on the 30th was the NRA got into Japan. Haven't been in there in 5 years, and they're telling you it's all cleaned up and all good. I will quote the Nuclear Regulatory Authority in Japan. In Unit 1, 10 sieverts an hour. Any person that comes near the vicinity will be dead in less than an hour. It's a deadly freaking dog. That's 10 years after the fact, and they've killed tens of thousands of workers. That's a fact. You can go along with their lie narrative. The head of the Fukushima 50, his mother, remember back in the day, yay, the Fukushima 50? She emailed me back when I used to get emails from Japan. And says, Kevin, he's full of cancer and saw he'd be dead within 2 weeks. He was dead. Half those guys are already dead. You know, the workers that use the mentally ill, the distraught, the immigrants, the people that don't know, the people that owe the Japanese mob money, the American, I mean, and Trump dumped out more nuclear pork than any president in history. Him and Obama, I mean, the twins that belong in prison. The Army Corps of Engineers belong in prison. So I'll post the iFish link. Maybe you guys can start commenting. So the live cam has been out. And I know they're lying on this number. Even ODFW agrees with me that they're lying. So there was a lawsuit filed in Alaska a few years ago about them lying by some independent fishermen. Last year they won, or Alaska Fishing Game admitted they've been lying, you know, to bolster tourism. Do you know about the Mitchell Act? The Mitchell Act is the congressional act that was passed to help save the salmon, which was hijacked by the Chamber of Commerce in the 90s. And that's what it's all about. They just lie to come fishing. They don't close it, which they'll give you 1 day fishing. Oh, sorry, bro. You catch it. Come back next year. Spend your money in the bars and the hotels and, you know, whatever. Tourism economy. Yay. Fishermen can't fish. Skiers can't ski. Surfers can't, I'm a butcher. What's a cow? I'm a baker. What's a cake? I'm a Army Corps of Engineers. What's a live cam? You know, it's disgusting. I'm an environmentalist. I'm a human rights activist. I'm any activist, period. What's Fukushima? It's the greatest event in human history. So this is the proof. So they set their numbers this year. Their projection numbers for the entire, I think the spring run, they projected 90,000 for the year. When just in 2016, they had 500,000 returners. And you know their projections are always at least 50% high. And so Tim has been on every river we've been on. There's basically nothing coming back. On the Willamette, on the Deschutes. Remember those lies that they put out that we're going to have 300-something thousand back on the Deschutes, and they ended up with 3,000. From what I understand, they had less than 1,000 back this year. Tim says there's just nothing on any of them. It's just sterile as it gets. Now, I was in San Diego, and I'll never forget this. Woman stopped me on the beach. She says, Kevin, come here. It's you, Kevin Blanch. I says, yeah. We just got back from the Sea of Cortez. And she says, I got to tell you, I got to give you a report. I've never seen the coast, and we've been going there our whole lives. It's completely sterile, wiped out. I said, yeah, it's Fukushima. She says, yeah, I didn't used to believe you. Oh, I believe you. 3 full blown out meltdowns. For every action, there's a reaction. It's the greatest action in human history. What'd we do? We just ignored it. COVID, there's no doubt in my mind, COVID is a mutation from Fukushima. So the live cam's still out. So maybe you people, I'll post a link. Maybe you can make some comments on there. I got kicked off there. Bill Monroe kicked me off. Stay in tune.